All right, let me count us down. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everybody, and welcome inside another brand spanking new episode of our Little Yankees podcast. I'm Julian Coltree, and as they say, Josh and E-Ray, fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. Fool me three times, kill yourself. I don't think that is actually the expression, but based off of how the New York Yankees have been playing, and now this being the third straight podcast that we have to literally dissect how absolutely putridly bad they are, I think we both want to kill ourselves, right, boys?
I mean, I don't know if I want to go that far, but yeah, it's pretty bad. It's depressing. It's crappy.
Yeah. Hello, everybody. It sucks. I'll get right into it. I went to the game yesterday, and that honestly was maybe worst game of my life, like ever.
Could that be worse than the Red Sox game in the
No,
playoffs?
you're right. Top three. It's top three. I'll say that
Worst regular season game ever, maybe
worst regular season game ever that I can remember, because I feel like in other regular season games there was opportunities to cheer and be happy. Let's go Yankees chant at least once. And I mean, you guys watched this game yesterday at home. Like, there was literally
I actually did not. I was in Cancun, so I didn't see a second of it.
But you read about it. They're literally like, there was nothing to cheer about. DJ LeMahieu got the first hit, and then he didn't get a hit until he got another hit. Like, I think it was the fifth or sixth inning. They were already down before I hit my seats. To be honest, they were already down a run or two or something like that. I saw someone die.
Yes.
When I entered the stadium.
And he's not exaggerating by that, by the way. He saw somebody die.
Yeah, so I walk right in, and they were giving out. So this is another thing. It was a hot summer day. They were giving out free hats, and you know me as a bald man, I needed something. They were giving out free Philly hats, so I was actually like, I had to wear it because of the sun and stuff. And I mean, whatever. I don't care about the Phillies that much. Like, I don't hate them or anything. I need to.
That's because you didn't go to high school outside of Philadelphia.
Yeah.
Philadelphia. Like,
I need to protect my dome though. So the Phillies hat helped. But anyway, yeah.
No Somerset Pat's hat that you literally bought and debuted on this podcast last week. You just didn't bring that with you.
Where is it? It's somewhere here, but I forgot about that one. I know. I should have
bought it 2 weeks ago.
Not even. But anyway,
it was a week ago.
Yeah. It was about a week ago. Yeah. But then I walk into the stadium, and I see to my left some guy just being like CPR'd and stuff, and nothing was happening. And I don't know why they kept him out there for a while. Like, they should have. He was on a cart, like a car thing, a truck, and they should have rolled him away like quicker. But he was out there for a while. But yeah, nothing was happening. We find out later that he passed away. So very, very awful day.
Rest in peace. And look, we don't want to make jokes about how he.
We shouldn't.
So we're just going to leave it at that it started with E-Ray, unfortunately, witnessing somebody pass away, and then the Yankees offense, as they continue to do, and their pitching, as they continue to do, withered and also passed away at Citizens Bank Park. So without further ado, boys, I actually thought at one point this week we were going to get on this podcast and kind of talk about the revival of the New York Yankees offense. 2 games against the Minnesota Twins after we recorded last week. First one wasn't like completely inspiring until the last couple of innings where they hit a couple of big homers. And then, you know, they had that giant coming out game on, I think that was Wednesday night against the Minnesota Twins and Jay Happ. Or that was actually the third game of the series. So second game of the series, they had the big coming out party. And then literally in only the fashion that the 2021 New York Yankees could do, they then proceeded to have a horrendous meltdown of their bullpen on Thursday against the Twins so they couldn't sweep, then come all the way back against the Phillies in game 1, only to lose in extra innings while putting up 7 runs, and then get demolished on Sunday in that short, brief, but completely forgettable 2-game set against the Phils. So from what could have been euphoria and the momentum turns into what we've expected all season, which is just absolute chicken shit.
Yeah. I mean, I've been at the point for a while with them, and I mean, I'm still there, where I need to believe it before I see it. So, three good offensive performances, maybe two and a half good offensive performances against Minnesota, and then, who's they're a horrendous team. I mean, awful. I mean, they may be the worst team we've seen against the Yankees all year.
Yeah, either them or Texas, I would say.
And Baltimore's in that
Yeah.
category as well. But I mean, Minnesota is just dreadful. So I mean, it was nice to see. They were entertaining games. They were fun to watch, which was nice for a change. But I didn't really take a lot out of it because I'm at the point, like I've been saying, where I need to see it to believe it. So for all the people who were saying, "Oh, the offense is back. This is what they needed," well, no. I mean, sure, they put up 7 runs in the first game against Philly. But they had to get themselves into a big hole before they could even dig themselves out of it against the Philadelphia bullpen, which is awful. And then yesterday they get shut out. Nola's a good pitcher, but it's just like you need to see them build off of it before you actually can believe and say yes, they're back. And we're just not getting any of that right now. It's 1 step forward, 4 steps back, 2 steps forward, a million more steps back. It's just that sort of back and forth all year, which is what a 500 baseball team does, which is, essentially what they are at this point in the season. And it's just more of the same. And, I don't know what to even think anymore as far as like, they're not turning it around. This is what they are. So we can stop just waiting and hoping and looking for any sign that, there are better things to come. The comeback against Philly, I don't want to take anything out of that. People were ready to say such great things about how they came back. I mean, even DJ LeMahieu in the postgame was talking about how they battled and how they competed and all this. And it's just like, we're past moral victories. We're past the point of being happy about coming back from a big deficit. And we in a game in which you didn't even win. And it's just, that sort of frustrating things that just keep happening. And at a certain point, you just are what you are. And over the last 100 games, they're a team that's 4 games over 500. They're 1 game over right now. Folks, this is what they are. They're roughly a 500 baseball team. For whatever reason, it doesn't click. This roster doesn't click. And we've dug into that in depth in weeks past, especially last week. And that's the bottom line. They're not a good baseball team. They are a mediocre team. And that is what they will continue to be for as long as they keep pushing out these exact same pitchers, lineups, coaching staff, maybe even front office staff. This is what it is.
To your point, Josh, it's interesting because if I think a moral victory would help if the Yankees were like 20 games over 500. You come back, you have a big comeback against the Phillies, you 7-7, then you lose in extras. But at this point in June, where you are, the only thing that counts for is another notch on the right side of your record.
Yeah.
Which is another game closer to them now being what? They're 1 game over 500 going into Tuesday. We record this on Monday. So, you know what? That's what they are. That's what they've been the last 100 games. That's what they were last season. And that's what they'll continue to be, because what I said, and this is the truth, on, I guess it was Tuesday night, Monday night, in that first game against Minnesota. So Tuesday night, they went down in that game, came back, went ahead, barely had a lead, then gave it up against Rob Refsnyder. And how many times in that game did they have the bases loaded and they couldn't do anything with against Minnesota? And you just said how bad they were. They didn't do anything with them in that first game, and they won it. But I said that night, I said, I don't care who you are. You can't look at this, even if the Yankees get a number in their left side, and say that this win inspired confidence. As bad as the Minnesota Twins are, and as terrible as they have played year in and year out, there was a point in that game, probably up until, I guess, maybe the 7th inning, that you said to yourself, the Yankees might lose this game. And teams that are good don't have that issue. And yes, late in the game, Gary and Miguel Andujar, 2 guys who are performing exceptionally well right now. You give them credit. Gary has tore the cover off the ball recently, and Andujar, proof. If you let him hit, he will hit. They had homers late in that game, but every single person in that lineup, they were not able to do anything that game. The only game in this last set that they looked beyond good in was that Wednesday night game where they just absolutely torched Minnesota.
Yeah, and Randy Dobnak is a horrendous pitcher.
Yeah, they're 4-11 in their last 15 games, and they only have 6 wins dating back to that sweep against the White Sox. They're an under 500 underperforming team, and that's what they are.
And that's the third worst. That's the third worst record in the American League at that time.
And it's repetitive to get on this podcast every week now. The last 3 weeks, and that's why I said kill me 3 times or fool me 3 times, kill yourself, because it's like running out of things to talk about here, boys. Can't really go in every single week and be like, how are we going to change the front office? How are we going to change the lineup? How are we going to change the coaching staff? What the fuck does this team need to do? At this point, they're just not going to do anything because they don't do anything.
Well, you can't go into hypotheticals like that. We can do that and say, oh, let's make this trade. Let's do this. Let's bring this guy up. But wow.
2 weeks ago, we did.
We did already. And like you said, it is a broken record. And it's just, they're just a bad team, man. That's just how it is. And we're just going to have to, Aaron Boone got asked, you think the guys in the clubhouse are getting used to losing? And he's like, get the hell out of there with that. Like, no. But no, as a fan, yeah, I'm used to losing already. I'm numb to it now. I'm saying this season, of course, and last year.
Yeah.
We're used to now this type of play and this team. And we're, again, I think a month ago, something I said, before they get on that field, they already lost. Before I turn on the freaking TV, I'm already expecting a loss. I'm already expecting to be upset, angry, whatever. Not even like yesterday, like it was the worst game ever. But to be honest, I didn't get angry. I was just like, oh, this just sucks. Here we are again. You know what I mean? Like, it's just like, whatever. It's just frustrating. And yeah, something needs to change. And again, we could have talked about so many off days this week where a coach or someone should have got fired just for the hell of it. Today is a perfect day. We talked about last Monday being perfect. Even today was even more perfect, but that's not in the Yankees ML. They just don't do that. They're not going to fire anyone, but they should. Something has to change.
Yeah.
What I don't get, and it's something we've discussed on this podcast before, but it's the truth. Forget firing somebody. That doesn't need to be in somebody's DNA. But there's just and this goes back to that sort of mantra you and I talked about, a few weeks ago, Josh, that inexcusable level of giving a fuck, not giving a fuck. It's like, how can you have the weekend that just happened in which you once again got clowned by somebody who had the opportunity to clown you? Your former manager, Joe Girardi, the guy we all yearn for at this point, got to win 2 very big games against you. And just go into today, an off day, 1 game over 500, 8.5 games back from the division you were supposed to run away from, and not even say, hey, let's find somebody to bring up. Let's find something to do to make the fan base know that, like, we're still in there. It was radio silence today from everybody in the organization, outside of Boone yelling at a journalist about something that was a viable question yesterday when they are 4 games over 500 over their last 100. They're not good. How can you go into that and just say to yourself, like, all right, well, Monday off day, get after them tomorrow. It doesn't have to be firing somebody, but show a pulse to a fan base that is desperate for something, for somebody within the organization to not just give mediocre coach speak lip service and to make them think that, like, hey, we're trying to jumpstart this thing right here. This is what we're doing to get there. This is who we're bringing up. This is the move we're making. This is the guy that's going to be the sacrificial lamb.
Well, a couple of things on that, because I think this is worth discussing. I think, you talk about like bringing somebody up or something to shake something up, because obviously what is happening is not working. I mean, I've said this every single week. It's like you could tattoo it on me at this point. It's just they're past the point of, in my opinion at least, they're past the point of, oh, let's send somebody down or let's call somebody up, and that's how we'll shake it up, and we'll make sure that everybody knows that their job is on the line and it's their ass, And the fact is, even if they wanted to do that, they can't, because there is nobody sitting in AAA that we're waiting for, that we're saying, okay, well, why isn't this guy getting a chance? Estevan Florial is somebody that we've talked about. he's been dreadful in AAA. His numbers are really, really bad. He's struggling at that level, which is fine. He's never been there before. So you expect it to take some time and you want him to develop. But, aside from that, there isn't anybody sitting in AAA from a position player or pitching standpoint where you're clamoring for that person to get called up. So in my opinion, that's out of the question. I don't think sending somebody down is the answer. Like Clint Frazier, you could send him down, but I don't think
DFA'd Mike Ford and that didn't do anything.
Exactly. Well, except it made me happy because Mike Ford was a slap in the face to me as a Yankee fan. The same way
you're having a party,
and I'm having a party in my apartment, like I said I would. And Rougned Odor is another slap in the face as a Yankee fan, but we could talk about that a little bit more later if you want. But back to the original point, it's just, what you're going to send Frazier down, and that's suddenly going to spark this lineup and this team into playing well. I don't buy that at all. So the options you have are really three things. One, you don't do anything. Two, you make a trade. And three, you fire someone. And in my opinion, three is out of the question, even though you could debate the merits of that. I think, we're kind of at the point now where somebody maybe should, bear the brunt of this. But it's making a move or it's doing nothing and hoping it all works out. And I'll just say this. The trade deadline, it's still 6 weeks away. There's a lot that can happen between now and then that will dictate what the Yankees may or may not do at that time of the season. But we're getting close to that point. Those 6 weeks go by quick, and the Yankees will have to make some serious decisions between now and then in terms of what they're going to do at that point in the season. And so I still believe that they should look to add to this and not strip it away. But I'm not going to argue if they really keep sliding and they're, way out of it come that time. I'm not going to argue against, making a change in terms of selling pieces off. So listen, the Yankees love their numbers. They love their analytics. They love their computer simulations and all that. You're one game over 500. Those are the only numbers that matter. So it's time to look in the mirror and ask yourself the tough questions. And what are the things that are realistic that we can do to turn this around? And I suggest that whatever those things they think they are, that's what they got to do.
Well, I think that's a great transition point for us, Josh, because so much of the last 3 episodes of this podcast that we've done have been why this team is so bad. And we know why this team is so bad. The team is so bad because they play guys like Rougned Odor, who literally one of the worst teams in baseball, who you and I just talked about with Baltimore and Minnesota in Texas, paid for the Yankees to take this guy rather than having them on their own. They play guys like that in the cleanup spot. They have or in the 3-hole. They have no fundamentals. Their pitching is collapsing due to injury and they cut corners. So we know that. So the question becomes now, what can this team do for really the next 30 games, 35 games up until the trade deadline to decide what it is that needs to happen? And I think we can kind of go around the horn here and discuss our different ideas. My big idea, and I said it to both of you guys today, is they built this roster how they built it, and they can't make changes. But that means whether it's injuries, whether it's players out of position, whether it's, back and forth bullshit, the guys who they signed to be their guys need to play. And if Aaron Judge or Giancarlo Stanton or Gleyber Torres or DJ LeMahieu or Luke Voit, et cetera, get hurt, it is what it is. Because the 2021 season now is not only in your hands, it's in the hands of the other teams that are good. Angels have won 6 straight. They have the same record with you, as much as we clown the fact that Ohtani and Trout always seem to be on team 30 games under 500. You're 8.5 games behind the division lead. From now until the end of the year, assuming they're healthy, you should run the Stantons, the Judges, the LeMahieus, the Glaybers into the ground and have them either win you or lose you games.
Mm-hmm.
Because to have Stanton, who was hotter than hot in that game Wednesday night, and then on Thursday, not play except for a pinch hit appearance,
which he's awful at.
which he's awful at, and that just goes to show you just how stupid like Boone and the analytics staff and the front office are. It's like, to not have him be in a game and to have a Sunday night game that you want to steal from Philly, not have Judge and Stanton in the lineup, is like inexcusable, especially at this point in the year. So for me, the biggest thing you have to do is live and die by your dudes. If they get hurt, it is what it is. Fuck it. They need those guys to win games. So have them win you games or have them lose you games. But regardless, this year's going to end with either them having left it all out on the field or them have gotten hurt, which they've gotten hurt so many times before. So, at this point, what else could go wrong? They're game over 500 in the middle of June. Yeah. So the Stanton blowing out his hammy and then not being able to finish out the rest of the year is not really going to make a big difference, or Judge not being able to play, or whoever it is. So that to me is what they have to do. And I don't want to see any more, makeshift muddled up lineups from now until the end of the year, unless a guy has a major injury.
Yeah. I mean, I'd rather lose games with Stanton, Judge, all those guys in the top 4 of the lineup than see Rougned Odor at 3rd or 4th. Mm-hmm. I would rather lose, like you say, with your best players on the field. These are the guys that you brought in to be the stars and the focal points of your team. So if you want to tell me and try to sell me on rest and load management, which is something we've talked about on this podcast, in the previous weeks, if you want to sell me on that in the beginning of the season when, you're playing well, or there's still, 130, 140 games left in the season, I can buy that. If you have, a first place, if you're in the first place in the division and things are going well and you're talking about, just trying to steal a day here or there from some of your key guys to keep them fresh, you can sell me on that. But when you're at the point that the Yankees are at, which is 33 and 32 on June 14th, you can't sell me on resting players anymore, because we have dug ourselves a hole here. And the only way you're going to get out of it is by changing something, which is, making a trade, which at this point you can't really say, or just playing your best players. Otherwise, everything is going to continue to go the way it's gone. So yesterday, when Aaron Judge is pulled from the lineup because he has back spasms, which we have to see the status on that, put Giancarlo Stanton in right field. He won an MVP playing right field. You really think he's at more of a risk for injury standing in the outfield for the entire game than he is not doing that? Because the way I see it, the last few years, he's been a full-time DH and he's still gotten hurt from swinging the bat or running the bases.
And at least if he gets hurt, you knew that you played him that day to try and win the damn game.
And you have to try. At this point, you have a guy who's getting paid what he's getting paid and is that important to your lineup. You can't have him be a part-time player. It makes no sense at all. And even when they're not in a National League Park, they treat him like a part-time player. So this isn't an overreaction to 2 games. This is the trend that they've been doing for a while. They've just completely given up on him as an outfielder. And you have to assume that comes from the top and that everyone is in lockstep with it. Boone, Stanton himself, they're all on board with this plan. Well, this plan is garbage. So if Aaron Judge is out for any length of time with these back spasms, which God forbid he is, you better play Giancarlo Stanton in the field. He better play the field, because we can't afford to watch him play a game, sit out the next, play a game, sit out the next, go to a National League Park, not play. You got to play your best players.
Well, I mean, Boone said it in his little post games a week ago, sense of urgency, right? I guess we'll see if apparently the sense of urgency wasn't enough to play Stanton this weekend. So we'll see going forward. The problem is, guys, I agree with you guys, but I just think us playing our best lineup still, this team just doesn't have it.
Oh, I agree.
Like playing.
Yeah, well, but that's fair. But you can't.
I know, lose. Keep dying with your best out there. I know. Like, at least try to put a serviceable and effective lineup out there every time. I think the issue is just that this lineup either is just miss all the time. It's just not gonna. That's just where we're at. I think like you guys, we can keep saying it's just who they are at this point. But if we are going to salvage this season, yeah, these players are gonna unfortunately have to play at the back of their baseball cards, right? They're gonna have to be the guys that we know they used to be.
And even if they don't, you can bitch all you want about the righties in the lineup, but it's like every single righty on that team was on a team that won 100 games 2 of the last 3 years. So they all hit. So for me, it's like, stop trying to sneak shitty lefties in there. You fucked up the lefty thing. You didn't go after a lefty in the offseason. So stop giving us shitty ones. Give us the good players, please. I'm begging you.
Yeah.
When Voit gets back, which is hopefully soon because he started his rehab yesterday, we better not see a lot of Rougned Odor. I'll tell you that, because I had my crusade against Mike Ford, and my crusade is moving on to Rougned Odor starting today.
Yeah. Their lineup, as soon as Voigt gets back, and he had a rehab start the other day, so he should be back soon, should start and end with righties. I said it to you earlier. You bat DJ 1, you do Stanton 2, Judge 3, and then you can do whatever you want down. Gary's hitting great. You put him 4. You can do Glaber 4, Gio 4.
They'll sprinkle in some Gardner.
But if they need it in there, whoever and whatever. Gardner is center fielder, put him 9. That's fine. But the first 8 should be your best hitters. And for the Yankees, their best hitters happen to be righties because that's what the front office went after. That's what they decided was the priority. They ignored what their ballpark is. That's fine, great, whatever. But stop giving us crappy players in the middle of that.
I agree. You got to dance with the girl you brought. And those are those guys that they acquired are the ones that they brought to carry them to a championship. And if you're going to mess around in the middle of the season with your crappy lefties, Rougned Odor, Mike Ford, having to rely on Tyler Wade as a pinch hitter late in the game, like that's the bed you made. And so I don't know, maybe the best course of action is to just play the guys that you expected to be your everyday position players. That's it. It's not hard.
If they're losing games in September because everybody got hurt, then I say to myself, all right, well,
you tried.
Whatever. That's what fucking happened. But you can't pretend the regular season doesn't matter and then be one game over 500 because you rested all your players. And now you're 8.5 games back, 8 in loss column from the first place. And you're tied with the Angels, who I'm sorry, stink outside of 2 guys.
You never want to hear.
At least they're exciting though.
Yeah, that's the thing. You can get up and watch their games. Shohei Ohtani's the best thing in the sport going right now. Mike Trout's the best player of the last 25 years. So, that's great. But the rest of their team fucking sucks ass. So, and now the Yankees do too, but they're not supposed to on paper, but they do because they don't get it.
And there's one guy in terms of everyday players, there's one guy that you would actually want to tune in to watch. And that's Aaron Judge.
Yeah.
And Giancarlo when he's on a hot streak, but we don't know when he's going to play and, whatever. And then they have one starting pitcher that you really want to see. And outside of that, you pretty much are just like, well, I guess maybe DJ will have a 2-hit game tonight, or maybe Glaber will show us something today. And I'm a huge Gio fan, but he's not somebody that you run to turn your TV on to watch.
Just in the field, I guess.
Yeah.
And can I make one final point on the Giancarlo playing outfield thing?
Please.
When he first came over here, he played left field.
And then he played right.
Was in the field. He played right when Judge got hurt. It was only until the following season where he had that injury in the beginning of it, and then he came back and they were limiting his shit. And all last year it was the same stuff. We don't want him doing any active crap, that he became this sort of, with the Yankees at least, we know he has a history of injuries, but where he's become this brittle bones guy. If he's going to get hurt, like Josh said, he's going to get hurt anyway. So he should not be fucking playing. And 4 weeks ago, when there was time to spare, you could say, all right, if they're going to hit, they're going to pitch, they're going to win games. When they were on that big hot streak with Kluber's no-hitter and all that stuff, you say, hey, we're rolling right now. We have time to wait. But, as the old expression, what was it with Yogi Berra? It's getting late early. Well, that's it. You're in the middle of June. By the time the All-Star break rolls around, you have to know whether or not you're prepared to make an opportunity. So, it'll be interesting to see.
We suck, but not for.
Okay. We suck. That's
I'm saying Cashman's text. Remember, apparently.
Oh yeah.
He said we suck, but not for long. Yeah. Well, Cashman, you still suck. We'll see.
Well, I will say this because on the topic of what else they can do, I saw somebody tweet this yesterday, and Josh said this. You're still in on them buying. You know what? I'll be in on them buying too, but I don't think And I don't think, A, they could even get these guys, but B, they wouldn't. If you tell me tomorrow, Yankees at the deadline, they're making a move for Scherzer, they're bringing him to shore up that rotation, they're going out there and getting Ketel Marte or, Starlin Marte, whatever it is, they're going to beef up this team and go down swinging and say, we're getting the guys we fucking need to put a winning product on the field and fill the holes we fucked up earlier, then I'd say, I applaud you. And Cashman, love your energy, bro. I'm glad you went out there and you said, we suck, but not for long, because you proved it wasn't for long, or at least you tried to prove that it wasn't for long. But we all know they're not doing that.
But also, Jules, if I know last week, I think Josh and I think we said we rather them buy, right? This was a week ago.
And I said stand pat, but I didn't
say sell. I'm saying you didn't say sell, but now, we keep watching this dog shit team every week and they keep not getting better and we keep falling in the standings. It's like by the All-Star break or even the trade deadline, if we're like freaking 10 games out of even the wild card, I don't know, maybe not, they won't be that far out of the wild card. I don't know actually, but it's like, do you want to buy though? It's like, then we have to start thinking about, because maybe they do buy and they sneak into the playoffs, that one game playoff. We would have to play probably the Red Sox or something in Fenway. I don't see us winning that game, even if we do get past the Red Sox. Do you see this team winning in October? I know October's a crapshoot, but I still don't see them winning. So it's like I'd rather maybe sell some pieces than to maybe just give up on the year. I don't know. I've changed my mind now.
Like I said, it depends on what they're doing. If they can get to the playoffs and they got Max Scherzer or Garrett Cole towing the rubber in a one-game playoff, you like those odds because they went all in. But they don't have the prospects, I think, to get two big-time guys like that.
Yeah.
And two, if you're going to get those big-time guys, you got to know they're going to come through. And with the way that this team is managed, with their poor fundamentals, and really just
that's what I'm talking about.
The fact that they're put together poorly, that's it. If you could guarantee me those two guys, if you could guarantee me the Yankees are going out there and they're trading everything they have for Max Scherzer and one of the Martes, I would say to myself, all right, I'm like maybe 65-45 on the idea of them going in and trying to get this and having a big second half, because proof is in the pudding. With the Nationals and Scherzer alone, you get to the playoffs, anything can happen. But it's also like, it's shitty to think that now we have to think about them getting literally one of the best pitchers in baseball and a really young, controllable switch hitter just to make a wild card game, to be on that 96-game pace in order to, compete. Like 3 years ago, they were supposed to win multiple World Series, and now it's like, oh shit, if we get Max Scherzer and Ketel Marte, maybe we'll be a road team in the wild card game.
Yeah, man.
Well, I mean, a lot of things have changed because Sevy, in his rehab start on Saturday, goes down with what looked like a pretty bad injury.
I see. I totally forgot about that in a way.
And so when Kluber went down, we were saying, all right, well, we're relying on hopefully Sevy coming back from his injury, and that'll be the acquisition that they need to make. We always make that joke. And then he goes down and gets hurt, and then Tyone in the same day gives up whatever he gave up and he got one out. And so now they have another hole that they need to fill. And so when it was just a center fielder, it felt possible and realistic. But now when you have another hole that you need to fill and the other guys in the rotation are maybe not, up to snuff, it's a lot to ask for to get what you need, like you guys are saying, just to make a wild card run. And then you have to say, is it really worth it? And is this season just a punt? Or is it, we're tearing it down?
Aaron Boone special, right?
Or are we tearing it down? Those are the questions.
In 2016, they did decide to kind of they didn't punt, but they did sell. Like they traded like their big relievers and they got great Torres and other pieces. It's like those pieces did help us in a way to retool and stuff like that. So you do have to start to wonder. Again, it's like, I feel like the only guy we can maybe sell, well, one of them would be Chapman again, right? I mean, he's pitching at a high level, and then you can go
Chapman
down
and
the list, I
Britton.
guess. But those are probably, again, our two big relievers are probably guys that you can trade. And
But that's the problem, and this is where a question becomes very indicative of what they will do. And look, I guess we probably have like 2 weeks until you really say to yourself, like, shit, this is what's on the horizon. But it's like, you know, with how poorly constructed this team is, with how bad they cut corners on starting pitching, on the bench, on getting serviceable guys to play positions in the right spots. You want Brian Cashman and this analytical front office going out there and get more prospects who don't pan out?
There's so many layers to it. And that's the thing that I thought about too. Like, I don't know if I trust them anymore. I think Ninja Cashman is dead. Like, I don't know if I really want this group to be the ones that are leading building the next team. And so that's another part of it too. It's, do you want, in that case, standing pat may be the best, because maybe you don't want this front office to trade prospects or trade for prospects, and standing pat is the best thing to do. But if you just assume that Cashman will keep his job regardless of what happens,
that's the thing, yeah.
which there's probably a good chance of that, then yeah, I mean, he'll probably be trusted with that if that's the route that they go. There is a nuclear option when we talk about this, though, because we mentioned Chapman and Britton, right? Those are obvious ones. And it's because, like, they've kind of done it already before when you sub Miller for Britton. The nuclear option is Aaron Judge. And I'm not advocating for it because I don't think they should trade him. I would really not be happy if they did. But when he's a year and a half away from free agency, there have been really no rumors or discussions about a contract extension of any kind. With the track record he has injury-wise and the season he's having, which is fantastic and has been, hopefully will not be interrupted by these back spasms for too long, that is your nuclear option there, because that guy will probably get you back a lot. But I'm not ready to do that yet. And I don't think they are either, but it has to be something that they at least talk about. If they're
we heard them talk about the idea of trading him to the Angels in the offseason. That Joel Sherman article or Ken Rosenthal, whoever it was.
I don't know for who.
Ago. but even if it's not for the quote unquote Mike Trout, Aaron Judge wet dream we all wanted, like Josh said, it's like you have those discussions, and if they are so unbelievably bad or unbelievably mediocre over the next 3 weeks, to the point that they say to themselves, it's like, hey, calls and say, Aaron Judge available, Oakland or somebody like San Diego who has a ton of great prospects and wants that final big slugging piece or that big player piece, says, hey, can we get so-and-so? You know, Josh isn't wrong. That's something that you shouldn't scoff at, especially because I truly believe that this year, trade deadline wise, much more 2014 than it was 2016. They had the perfect storm of a trade deadline that year in 2016 when they were able to get 2 unbelievably massive hauls.
And they weren't in the championship window.
Yep, and they weren't in the championship window. The hauls they got that year for Chapman and Andrew Miller were like next level. And that's not going to happen again.
We were praising Cashman. We're like, holy shit.
In on this.
Hey, Rob.
There he is. He wants it on the fun.
Yep. The hauls that they got that year were like next level unbelievable, to the point that like you can't expect that again. And as Josh pointed out, when you had Carlos Beltran, when you had Brian McCann, when you had the mid to early 30s guys, and you weren't worried about wasting the careers of Judge and Stanton and Gary and all these guys, you didn't give a crap who you traded away and what you did. This year is not only a pain because you want to see them win, but it's like you just knock a year off of the durability and the ability of all these players.
And it kind of there's 2 things there. One, it kind of goes back to what we were talking about before, which was in 2016, you know, there were guys that we wanted to trade away so that we could see others come up. You know, we wanted more of Sanchez. We wanted to see Judge. We wanted to see Tyler Austin. And so we wanted to get rid of various people, which, you know, we wanted to move McCann to the bench so that we could see Sanchez play every day. We wanted to trade Beltran. And we wanted to, you know, see those young players called up as the switches. A-Rod retired. There was another part of that too, because we wanted to see different younger players.
Mid-season retirement.
Yeah, and he retired in August, which right around the same time that Aaron Judge came up. It was all in the same weekend that this all happened. The trade deadline, the trades happened maybe 3 weeks before that. Now, like we said before, there isn't anybody that we're really excited about to see in AAA that we're,
Jason Dominguez is the closest
and he hasn't
prospect.
even played a game yet. And so it's like we're not trading away people on the major league roster so that we can finally give these prospects their chance. And the other part of it is that back in 2016, Chapman was about to be a free agent, so it made sense to trade him because they didn't have.
And I think they knew they were going to get him back,
and they had a feeling that they'd get him back. And I think Miller had maybe a year left on his contract, so it was the right time to make those moves. And Beltran was a free agent too at the end of the season, so all those guys were like at the very end of their deals, and it made perfect sense to move them. And we're not really in the same situation as far as looking to sell. You could sell Chapman, you could sell Britton. They are under control, so you would be able to get a good amount of prospects back for them. But I don't know if you're getting what Glaber was at that time as a prospect. I don't think that's happening. Unless
and even if it was, as we all said, look at every single prospect who Cashman got in those two deals. Frazier right now has not hit and hasn't been a good major leaguer. Glaber has been all-star caliber. We'll give him that. He's lived up so far to the reputation, but he hasn't been like a Tatis, which is what we probably all thought he was going to be. And then the rest of those guys, the Sheffields, the Dylan Tates, they were nothing.
I mean, Dylan Tate landed us Britton, so that was nice.
No, that's true.
And, Sheffield landed us Paxton, which was a failed experiment. So,
Game 5, bro.
Yeah, he did have that one moment. So it was an up and down return. Glaber is a difference maker, and Clint, we don't even know anymore. But it's two different situations completely. And the main issue at the heart of it is that this was a team that was favored by every publication, journalist, radio talk show host, fan to win the American League East by a lot and to win the pennant at the very least. And compete for a championship. And right now we're talking about we need dramatic moves just to be a wild card team. Mm-hmm. And so that's the heart of it.
Should we sell or not?
And that's the heart of it. This is a championship window. And we're discussing selling. I don't know how we got here, but we're here. And the fans have faced the reality. The question is, has the team faced reality? Aaron Boone, you started to see a little bit yesterday in his post-game press conference. He's starting to feel frustration and portray it to the public. We usually don't see that kind of emotion from him. Getting mad at Brian Hoke for the question. A couple other things that you hear him talk about, and you say that he's very concerned about the state of the team. So maybe they now are finally waking up to the reality as well. But I'll say this: we talked earlier in the show about changes and the shakeups and stuff. One thing that the Steinbrenner family will respond to is the bottom line. If the fans stop showing up and if the TV ratings go down, a change will be made. And that may not happen in season, but it will happen afterwards because we've seen it in the past. 2008, they didn't make the playoffs. And in 2009, they were opening up a new stadium and they went and they basically bought us a championship. Mm-hmm. And in 2013, they missed the playoffs. So they spent a ton of money in the free agency market, landing McCann, Ellsbury, and Tanaka. Now, that didn't go well, but it was something. And you felt like they were back to competing for a championship. So we've seen it in the past. That's what they respond to more than anything else. And the fan base, if you're on Twitter, is very frustrated. So we are a few weeks away from the stadium opening up where pretty much every seat can be full, but most seats won't be. And that's the reality of the situation.
I hope, Josh, I hope you're right, because I feel like, again, it sucks that we didn't have the chance to go to a baseball game last year, and we were starving for it this year. And we went to the Houston National, and that was exciting. And it's like, I have
most exciting moment of the year today.
Yeah, really. And I have no energy and no enthusiasm to go back to Yankee Stadium to watch this team. I mean, I did drive. I went to Philly yesterday. I feel like I mostly just went to like hang out with friends and like do that stuff. Like the Yankee game was just there in the background, to be honest.
All you need to know was 2 weeks ago, we had an opportunity with free tickets to go, and we opted not to. Not for anything other than they are in the midst of one of their worst stretches in at least 5 years. There was nobody exciting pitching-wise. Garrett Cole was not pitching that day. And there was more exciting shows in town. The Knicks had an opportunity to win a Game 5 there. The Sixers were on. You had a lot of interesting, exciting matchups going on in the NBA playoffs. There was more exciting things to do. And the worst thing you can be in pro sports, and the worst thing that can happen when it comes to wasting your hard-earned money, because no baseball game is free, is seeing something that is a regrettable, boring schlep on the field.
Yeah.
That says it all. The fact that we couldn't go to games last year and we were itching to go this year when they told us that fans would be in the stands and we'd all get the vaccine, all this. The fact that we're sitting here talking about how we're actively avoiding going to games is sad. And it
isn't because of COVID, baby.
It's an accurate depiction of the state of the franchise and the state of the team. And I don't think we're alone in this, because everybody that you see on Twitter, or even not even that, the Michael K show, Carton and Roberts, any show you listen to, they all say the same thing. The team is unwatchable and boring. And that is, like you said, the worst place to be, because there's nothing that you look at and you say, I'm turning the TV on tonight to see that, unless you're just a real diehard like we are.
I mean, yeah, we're still going to, I was going to say that, like, you're going to have people say, oh, you know, if you love a team, you have to go to the bad, right? And it's like, yeah, we're going to the bad. We're doing this damn podcast every week talking about how bad it is. And we are like, yeah, I didn't watch some games, but I'm still following and stuff. Like, we love the New York Yankees, man. We bleed the New York Yankees. We're still going to watch. We're still going to react. It's just like, it's that sad state of affairs right now. And it's the fact that they're not supposed to be here. They're not supposed to be in fourth place in the American League East on June, whatever fucking day this is. It's a joke. It's a failure. It's everything wrong in life right now that the Yankees are in fourth place, and we're talking about selling, and we're talking about all this. It's a really dark time. It's just so dark.
They need to stop the bleeding, proverbially, before people get to that last stage of the stage of grief, which is acceptance. Because once you hit acceptance, that's when people don't go to games anymore. That's when people follow, but they don't take the time out of their day to watch. That's when you can't come back from where you are at, because at that point, not only are you bad, but as Josh pointed out, fans stop religiously devoting their time to caring. And while they are there for the bad because they still support the team, that does not mean they have to be in the low point of their year, just like your shitty team is. You know, simple.
I'm kind of hoping that what Josh says is right, though. Like, if they do continue to be bad, I hope that fans don't go. I hope that fans don't watch and like their ratings go down, and that they do, because listen, they want to save money, but they don't want to lose money.
They want to make money.
They want to make money. Yeah. So if they
save money is to make money.
And if they're losing money and the money's not coming in, then hopefully that's when they'll make it.
Well, what we did is the perfect example of their business model one-on-one. We got, quote unquote, free tickets. Josh was gracious enough to share his opportunity through the ticket package with you and I, Ray. If we had gone to that game, at a minimum, we would have had to spend in the area $150.
Yeah.
Between food, between parking, between gas, between driving. And at the stadium, and you cannot go through one trip to Yankee Stadium. I mean, you probably can, but it's almost next to impossible without spending money on something. A water bottle. Josh, he's not a huge stadium food guy. How many water bottles do you usually buy there, Josh? One game?
One.
You know, that's still $10. It's $10 in the Steinbrenner's pocket. And if people don't show up, they don't get that money. The worst thing, though, that is happening in New York City is the death of New York sports talk radio, which is why it is so important for us to do this podcast every week, because the likes of Mike Francesa ethering this team every day at 1:00 during his opening monologue are just not there anymore. So you hope that the fan base on Twitter continues to come out and show their visceral towards this team, and that we can keep burning them, burying them, and getting mad at them, because right now that's really the only thing that's going to do it, because I don't think the pull within the national media about this team, as well as the appearance of the local media, is just that big anymore.
Yeah, I agree with you on that. I don't think, like, in years past, you know that people were listening to what certain hosts were saying on the radio, and I just don't think that there's that level of the names that are currently doing the job, other than Michael Kay, because he's the voice of the network and the voice of the team.
Yeah, and you wonder how much he could really be because of that.
And I listen to him, and he does rip into them.
He does, yeah.
But I don't think the names across the board carry the gravitas that like Francesa's name did, where when he says something, people were paying attention to that, and it actually carried weight, and it actually led to teams doing things.
Got the New York Marathon canceled.
The jokes of like, oh, the Mets got Piazza because of me and Dog. Like, they're jokes, but like there's truth to that, And I will say that the fans are upset, and if the teams still pay attention to the media and they pay attention to the talk shows, they'll hear the fans calling in and talking about how upset they are. So while I agree that like it's not what it was, there's still some chance that can bear fruit, because whether it's social media or whether it's the radio or TV or whatever it is, the fans are fed up and they've had enough. And once, like you said before, Jules, once you get past the point of you can't get angry anymore and you just accept it, that's when the apathy sets in. And that's when, people stop showing up, people stop watching, people stop talking in general, and they never want to be there. And they're getting close though.
Yeah,
they
absolutely.
are. I kind of want to stop talking about them, but we're going to be here every week, baby.
No, we will. With that in mind, obviously a separate topic that still relates to the Yankees that I kind of want to touch on here before we close up the pod is the situation regarding the quote unquote sticky stuff, the spider tack, whatever you want to call it. Of course, this week we heard leading up to the Twin Series, all the talk about Garrett Cole, him using it, Josh Donaldson coming out there. Near the end of last week's pod, we talked about some of the worries about baseball maybe cracking down on that, hurting Garrett Cole. And then there was a whole media circus about should he hit Donaldson because he, broke the unwritten rule of being a rat or whatever it is you want to say. He didn't hit him. Whether or not he used sticky stuff in that game, he probably didn't. And because of the national media being on him, still dominated. But earlier today, a big story came out regarding the whole situation. And it kind of looks like in the same sort of light that Barry Bonds became the face of the steroid scandal and Jose Altuve has kind of become the face of the asteroids cheating scandal, that Garrett Cole might wear this sort of dirty badge of being the guy a lot of people look at as doctoring the ball with, the different types of, sticky substances and stuff like that. Look, the fact is, wasn't illegal. It's never been illegal. How many of these guys you think in the 70s and 80s that are Hall of Famers now used crap like that in their glove and all that stuff? We all know it was used like that before. But as Josh has always so ceremoniously pointed out, Major League Baseball never seems to have issue with it until it becomes a problem, and then they completely botch how to handle it. So with this becoming a bigger story by the day, I figured you guys might want to dive in on your thoughts with how it's going to progress and what you sort of think about, MLB seemingly starting to crack down on pitchers using illegal substances on the baseball.
Well, what I'll say, I think it's good that they're going to crack down on it, because I just think it has gone too far, and you clearly can tell the offenses are affected by it and the hitters are not happy. And technically it is against the rules, even though it's never been enforced. So I think it's good that they're going to start enforcing it, starting today, basically. And I'm happy with that, and I'm on board with it if it's going to make the game better, because the game suffers for it. And as far as Cole being the face of it, that doesn't sit well with me, because there's tons of guys that do it, and I know I get it. He's a Yankee and he's the highest paid pitcher, and I get it. But let me just say that the truth will bear itself out starting tonight, because not for Cole, because he'll pitch Wednesday, but he'll have to pitch without it now, and we'll see how he does. He did really well on Wednesday in Minnesota. We assume he was clean that night.
Unless he found something else.
Yeah. But that's the thing. Like there will be another thing that comes after, but whatever. I think if he pitches well, then everyone has to shut up about it because clearly if he's using it, he'll get caught at some point this season. And if he pitches poorly, then we'll discuss that when it comes. That'll be a problem, another problem to add to the pile. But the way I look at it is, I don't think it's fair to him to be the face of it. I do understand how it's gotten to that point for him, and I also think that let's just see how it goes from here on out before the baseball fan community, whatever, makes this guy out to be the villain among all villains. If
He's
he pitches
which is
like
Major League Baseball's favorite thing anyway.
Exactly. If he pitches like a Cy Young candidate the rest of the way, then that's what he is, and we have to just people just have to.
No, they'll say that he's still cheating. In a way, what sucks is he's already made out to be the villain. Even with that article today or something, I didn't read it yet, to be honest, but I know there's an article today that one of our friends who's a Red Sox fan mentioned. But yeah, man, the same thing. Like, I just don't think Garrett Cole should take the brunt of it, but he's a Yankee. And look at Trevor Bauer's last 3 starts. He's actually been even more terrible than Garrett Cole. Like, Garrett Cole had that one bad start before the one.
I mean, he was very vocal last year about talking about using crap.
Yeah.
So, I think personally, I had the concerns about it, and I said to you guys a few weeks ago in a little voice memo in our little, back and forth conversations that, when he first went to Houston, all that stuff came out with Bauer about him, everybody in Houston's doctor and the baseballs and stuff like that. But like, I didn't feel like Cole ever really like strutted his stuff or went out there and like acted like an asshole or any of that stuff. So it's like to paint him as a villain when, as I've said before, it seems like every year, multiple pitchers you see touching their chest or touching their head or, touching their arm or having weird shit on them and stuff like that. It's like they all do it. Everybody's been doing it. They were doing it in the 60s and the 70s, and guys were spitting on baseballs when Babe Ruth was pitching and crap like that. So nobody's a villain from it. I think to paint guys like that just because you don't like them or shit like that, unless they're actively douchebags like Trevor Bauer, then, it's an unnecessary waste. And like Josh said, you see him cut them down now. If it stops, then whatever, you move on with it, right?
The only villain is baseball, because they're the ones who sit on their hands and do nothing until it becomes too much of a problem to the point that they can't ignore it anymore. And then they turn the players against each other or turn the players into the faces of it and the bad guys. Bud Selig is just as much the face of the steroid scandal as Barry Bonds or Roger Clemens or Mark McGwire or any of the other guys.
And they didn't give a shit when it saved baseball after the strike almost ended the career of the major leagues.
It's history repeating itself again with a different scandal in a different era of baseball. It's the same, as far as I'm concerned, it's the same sort of story.
Yep. The only question, go ahead, Igor.
I think that they should keep cheating, and then they should allow steroids back, and then we should just go with
back, and it's
back.
Immovable force versus the unstoppable object.
Yes.
The steroid guys versus the cheating pitchers.
Ratings will be up through the roof if that happens.
Think about that. You'll have guys with spin rates off the chart, and then Barry Bonds level muscles just hawking 70 home runs off 110 mile per hour fastballs. Then again, you might have to worry about the pitchers using steroids, and then they'll be.
You're right, because pitchers take steroids too.
Hold on. We can do this, but we have to limit it to only the hitters. The hitters get their unfair advantage, which is juicing and using HGH, and the pitchers get their unfair advantage, which is being able to use whatever weird ass substance they want to get a better grip and do all the spin rates. So it's a win-win, and then we'll really see who the true best players in baseball are.
I actually looked up Spider Tack or something on Amazon. I think I might bring it to our next event. I'm kidding.
What event are you talking about?
I don't know. Whenever we hang out.
At first, I thought you were going to say something. I was going to be like, please stop. We don't want to hear about what you're about to do with that Spider Tack.
No, I'm just saying our next event.
And that
Whenever
made
that
even
may
less.
be, I
That
don't
made
know.
even less. I was at least I could have wrapped my head around the concept of that joke. But you saying you're going to bring it
wasn't
to
a
a
joke.
next
It was just
event,
like what-
like
yeah.
we routinely meet up and do things with baseballs and
Aw.
stuff like that.
Yeah,
I was like, what?
baseball. Yeah, you're right. You're right.
Like no, we do not have a
I'm gonna bring it to the
OLED
bar,
baseball league. Oh yeah, so you can hold on to your beer better.
Yeah. That. Wow. You see.
Yep, get more
All
spin
right.
rate on that beer while you're chugging it down, right? See,
One
There
more
you go.
thing. Can Kate Hunter stop emailing us? Oh, Kate.
Yeah,
Fuck off. I'm just kidding. But I'm not kidding. She's probably
Kate
a nice
Hunter, the Yankees ticket rep, who has all three of our ticket information. We're sorry if E-Ray said anything mean to you, but the Yankees are causing us a lot of heartbreak right now. So until they get better, no, we don't want to hear more about New York Yankees ticket packages. E-Ray, I assume
I don't.
there's no pop of the week this week.
This
but-
I know. Last week I was thinking about no one, but this week there's for sure 100% no pop of the week. They don't deserve anything. No
Not even
awards.
Stanton?
I'll give one out.
Wow.
All right.
No,
See,
they
there you go.
deserve some pain.
They do, but like, I am a negative person, obviously, but like when something good happens, I'll call it out. So Gary Sanchez, he can get it.
He
Oh,
has
wow.
been good.
God forbid Josh gave it to Stanton, Jules.
Well, you played
No,
two
but
games.
Yeah, he played two.
as a certified Gary hater, and I am one, I will admit he's been batting like 360 the last
He
two
has,
games.
he has,
looks
he
really
has.
good. Him and Miguel Andujar, as I said earlier in the pod, have been the lone bright spot for this team. As far as the Yankees are concerned, it is going to get a lot worse before it gets better, or at least has the potential.
That's not good.
Because as we said, they are one game over 500, and they have the Blue Jays now starting tomorrow, who, as we know, have absolutely kicked their teeth in this year, and they are super good. And it looks as though Vlad Guerrero Jr. might be the front runner for the AL MVP since he's a triple crown candidate right now. Then right after that, they welcome in the Athletics, first time they've seen them this year, but Oakland. After that rocky start, they're the best team in the American League West right now, so they've been performing really well. Then they play the lowly Royals, who were not good. They'll play them next week before taking on the Red Sox again, and then meeting with the Angels and the Mets. So that's what their kind of end of June, beginning of July looks like. Any thoughts on the upcoming schedule before we wrap things up here, boys?
I think there's a not better than 50-50, but I'd say a 50-50 chance that they're under 500 by the middle of this week, because Buffalo is a disastrous park for them last year, and Toronto is a very tough team for them to beat at either stadium. So yeah, I don't know about that. I don't feel very good about it. I guess we shall see. Maybe they'll surprise us. They do have Cole pitching Wednesday, so there's always a chance that they take at least one of the games, with that being the case. The A's, that scares me too, because they've got a good team as well. So I don't know. I have little reason to be optimistic and think that suddenly everything is going to change. I do think that there's a chance that by week's end, they are an under 500 baseball team.
My guess is 2-4, so that would put them under 500 as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't have any expectations. The New York Yankees are the only thing that I look forward to in life, but now I don't even have that. So,
And you definitely don't have Kyrie and James Harden. So.
you see, why'd you have to mention that?
Because Sixers are going for the
it sucks that you had to have our players hurt for you guys to do it, but
well, that's the fact.
That's the nature of the beast, right? That's life.
All right. Once again, condolences. I know we'll never get to meet you, but to that gentleman who passed away, we love you and we will miss you. Yes, right, E-Ray?
It's true. I know that. I forgot where I didn't know you were going there, but yes, it's very sad. My respects to the family.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. So, a lot of fun and exciting things, and we'll have to see how the Yankees do. They're off today when we record this podcast on Monday, but they'll be back on Tuesday when they take on the Blue Jays up in Buffalo. That's going to do it for us here on our little Yankees podcast. As always, you can find us wherever you listen to podcasts. That includes our home base, which is SoundCloud, and then we're also on Spotify pods. We're on Apple Podcasts. We're on TuneIn. We have links to all our multimedia, which includes our YouTube page, as well as all our different podcast links on our LinkedIn tree, which can be found on our official OLIP Twitter account. Follow us at our Little Yanks Pod, OurLilYanKspod. He's at Heel 11, Josh Levin. He's at E-Ray Chosen One, E-Ray Sepulveda. And I'm at Julian Coltree, which is, of course, my name, Julian Coltree. Until next time, folks, for those two, we'll catch you later.